It's Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. This is part 2 of the program from Monday, March 19th, 2018. William Hooker, my guest, our topic, the fantastic Sonny Murray. If you missed part 1, it's waiting for you. Go back and listen to that first, because there's a whole lot of setting of the table that's there for you. But otherwise, well, here you go. It's Deep Focus, part 2 of 3. Okay. Go ahead. Well, let me catch them up. If you just tuned in, that's some music you never heard before in your life, unless you were at the studio Rivby on Bond Street, June 29th, 1975. And that is Sonny Murray's Untouchable Factor from the WKCR archives. I'm Mitch Goldman. The show's called Deep Focus. And our guest tonight is William Hooker, drummer William Hooker, who's performing Thursday, April 5th at Roulette in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And you were just being touched by the music of Sonny Murray. And we were flowing with it here in the studio, no doubt about it. William, what's happening?
What's happening?
Give me a little play-by-play here.
Okay, so philosophically speaking, and I don't want to take it there for too long, I see things in Sonny Murray's playing in terms of being able to build on something after you've destroyed something.
Mm.
Sometimes to get to the real music, you have to, and I won't say the real music, it's all real music, but sometimes if you're in a situation and you really want to search for something different, you really almost have to destroy something in terms of another person's sensibility, another person's flow, another person's way of approaching music. Because many of us have played with many, many, many different people. And a lot of times it's interesting because the last person you played with, then you come into the studio or come into a place and you bring that person's vibe along with you. You almost have to detach you have to detach that person from whoever that situation is. Mm-hmm. So that you can hopefully get to some stuff that is a little bit different for the 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, it was like 6 people together, without having to be dependent on licks or having to be dependent on those experiences that linger in the back of your mind, whether you like it or not. That's kind of the way the brain is, in a sense. Mm. So you're asking yourself, how do you do that? You can do that by banging your head continuously up against a wall. And after a while, you're so exhausted that what comes out is relaxed, and what comes out is more musical in terms of me trusting in following your real self, as opposed to the colors and the glamour that one often finds as one goes from place to place to place to place to place, picking up all of these various vibes and basically, really tell you the truth, picking up other people's thoughts. Mm. That happens. Whether we want it to or not, that's the case. And so I could see, I don't know if he approached it this way. I know that in many cases it has had to be approached in this way. A way of actually burning through something so that something could come out of it. In other words, taking that piece of coal and condensing it and condensing it and putting pressure on it and putting pressure on it and putting pressure on it. And then eventually you open your hand and you have like a diamond. It's like that. It doesn't just reveal itself right then and there to you, because there's so much going on in this life. There's so much going on in our spirit that it's hard to get at. Even with people that you trust, it's hard to get at, because sometimes we really are victims. We're victims of the everyday. We're victims of past experiences that linger. We're victims of our emotional bodies. Because if you really study the emotional body and what you put into an instrument, 1 minute you could be happy, next minute you could be sad, and neither one of them is true. It's just like a mental phase. So I'm talking about that I won't even say the essence, because that's a little bit getting a little bit corny in a way, but You're trying to get at something. You're trying to get at something that's more spontaneous, more giving, and more creative. And so I could see definitely that being a method through which a person would investigate, trying to get at those people that you're playing with and getting them to function as a unit, as a unit. And so I can hear that in his playing. And it's not that you do that out of animosity. You do that out of like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Let's learn something different. It's not any of that. It's not even a matter of like, who was the eldest in the group and you have to listen to that person. It's just about everybody really trying to come to the music with an open palette, and then you all start to create together. That's kind of the basis of it, or it should be the basis of it, separate from everybody looking for the pay cut and trying to figure out when's the next gig going to be before you even played this one. It gets crazy after a while. It gets like it's based on practicality. And music and sound is not necessarily based on practicality and the rules of practicality. The angles. It's not kind of like that. For some people, it's like that, and they get over like that. That's good for them. For me, I don't feel comfortable with that. I really don't. I don't know if Sonny Murray felt comfortable with it. I don't know if many people in that generation felt comfortable with it, because when I hear some of the talk that I hear various people and the way they explain things out of their own necessity to be quote-unquote hip, which I know for some people it's kind of corny. But I never was really drawn toward that hipness. I kind of never was really drawn to that.
Well, in light of that, it's interesting.
But maybe that's my personality.
Well, I'm with you on that. I'm thinking about Sonny Murray. If he had just done what he did as a sideman throughout his career, I think he would have to be acknowledged as a great innovator. But interestingly, here we're listening to him leading a band, which is something that he did frequently through the years.
Great.
And so, he's not just bringing the concept of here's this rhythmic structure and this response that I'm giving to somebody, a great composer, inventor's ideas, but I've got my own thing that I'm doing and bringing this ensemble together. Maybe does that kind of shift your perspective on him a little bit, the fact that he's also leading a band as you do?
You know, that's a hard question to answer because it's a hard question to answer because I never really met him. Because, you know, and in my not meeting him and not talking to him, you know, you could get a lot out of how to lead something, but you get a deeper insight, you get a deeper focus when you actually know the person, a more well-rounded picture of the person. You know, it's like, you know, that you don't necessarily only think about it in musical terms. You think about it in terms of some of the songs that he even wrote, which are like Justice, Virtue. What are some other songs he wrote? Justice, Virtue,
Unity,
An Even Break.
Elephant's Dream.
All right, Elephant's Dream. And then you ask yourself, what do those songs really mean? Because obviously they encompass something. You know, when a person says justice, you're really searching for a higher value. And in terms of being a leader or something, or not even a leader, being a person that has an opportunity and you want to share that opportunity with other people, and then you're going to name it justice. That's, you know, that's different than, like, you know, I don't know. It's that's a pretty high ideal.
My limited experience with him, he would talk in a very open way about big concepts like that.
Okay.
Yeah, he would.
Okay.
And where he saw the way he fit into things, in a way that most people don't talk about those things.
Right. And I feel like that's a very good thing. That's a good thing. Separate from the fact, and I must mention it, that I just found out that he had a mental malady. Now, knowing some people also that have mental malady of that nature, I can understand a lot of reasons why people do certain things, and I can understand a reason why he probably did certain things that were interpreted that make up his legacy, like as a person, you know, and those kinds of things. I don't take. I just was never privy to, but that's what people talk about. They talk about those things that happened based on a person's being in a setting and doing some things that are kind of odd. But that's really not about what the person really was into. That's just a whole different personality in a way. And so I try to dismiss that. So I try to think about the music. I try to think about, you know, what does it mean to play something hilariously? What does that mean? And then when I listen to the song, I say, Because I remember the first time I heard that song, I said, that's kind of hilarious, actually. It does sound kind of hilarious. Is that the one? I'm like, whoa. I said, that's some funny stuff. I said, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I like that. And I haven't heard this record in like 45 years, I'm telling you. I still remember it. Yeah, so I take those things in, separate from the person's personality, separate from what I like about the person or don't like about the person, and it clarifies things for me, you know, and it makes me really realize that there are struggles that people go through inside of their own selves that are separate from my experiences with them, and you know. And hopefully, if I come off the wall, you'll remember. You'll say, "Oh, well, something's wrong."
Yeah, no, that does happen with people. I mean, you know, aside from musicianship and all these other things we're talking about, just in the walk of life.
That's right.
People lose their way all kinds of different ways, and
Right. They become
shows up.
schizophrenic. I mean,
Yeah.
well, who is that?
Or overwhelmed or heartbroken or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And so that's the reason why I always judge Sonny Murray's music from the standpoint of a higher striving. That's one thing I got to say. Separate from all these other things, I really look at him in that sense, because that's what I was getting from it. Maybe again, I was ready for it. Maybe I was ready for it after studying all these various people's playing and the fake book and dances and backing people up, dancers, and working with quartets, trios, quintets, seeing all the people who played music, et cetera, and then maybe I was just ready for it. That was the time that I was ready for. So I had a certain trust. When I picked this record up, and I had a certain trust, not in the sense of like this was some sort of idol that was telling me buy that record, but it was a guy just like me that was in a record store. It was just like going down to Bruce Galanter's and all of a sudden you meet somebody and say, hey, man, this is a nice record. Check it out. You don't all of a sudden say, oh, geez, oh. You don't go into all of that. You just feel like this is a good thing. This is a good thing. So I look at it that way, and I also I think that this thing about the swing in terms of his language, I think it's very essential because I can hear it. I can feel it as well. And I think that this Ray 1 that I keep telling you about, which is the destructive Ray, which is a Ray that says that let's get past all of this day-to-day okey doke and let's get into something a lot deeper. I think that that's a part of his music and part of what he was trying to say too, especially when he gets into that to see the sun. I can really understand what he's saying. He's striving for something. And as a drummer, if you're a good drummer, that's the way you play. You're striving for something. If you're a good drummer. If you're just a drummer that plays licks, go play licks. Make money. Do everything. Be in the mainstream. I'm not going to put you down for it. But if you're really striving and you're questioning, and you're around other people that are striving and questioning, not just the big questions, you naturally come across these philosophical tenets, and you try to use them. And I believe that you use them in your vocabulary of playing music. You try to use them in terms of your vocabulary.
Now, let me just let the folks know, if you're just tuning in, we call this show Deep Focus, and William Hooker just demonstrated for you exactly why and where that name came from.
Oh.
You got the laser, man.
It's Deep Focus.
It's Deep Focus. This is it.
That was Deep Focus.
That was a demonstration of the principles that we strive for.
That you put the show together. Yeah.
William's talking about great drummer Sonny Murray in the recording we've been listening to from Studio Rivby in June of 1975. William, there are people listening to this program right now who you just touch something at their core because they are striving. They are trying to approach that in their lives. You don't just have to have a pair of drumsticks in your hand to pursue that, right?
Right.
Don't go to Studio Rivby to try to create that experience for yourself. Go to Roulette on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. And if you go Thursday, April 5th, you will see none other than William Hooker and a new program you've put together. We're still gonna come back to it. I'm gonna ask you about it.
Okay.
I'm just giving a little tease to the folks. This is something I know you have been working on for a long time, and this is one of you're a big thinker, man. It's hard to not sound grandiose saying that, but those words apply to you. And I know this is a big program that you've been developing for some time, migration. And is this the very first presentation of it?
This is the New York premiere.
Thursday, April 5th at Roulette, 509 Atlantic Avenue. And we're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to it.
Tell people who are in it.
What's that?
Tell people the great musicians.
One of the great musicians is right here in the studio with us, and that is Ras Moshe. Thank you for being along.
Thank you, too. Thank you for your great radio work all these years.
Make me feel
to
old.
The maestro, William Hooker.
Well, I should let you introduce these folks because you are hand-picked musicians.
All right. One thing I have to say, I am so appreciative and thankful for being in a company of musicians that have actually created community for me and for this piece, and are taking this piece with them, going home with this piece and actually feeling this piece. That's a very, very rare thing. And it's something that I'm watching develop. And it's something I can't tell these musicians enough how thankful I am that they're going down this personal journey with me. This is my most personal work I've ever done. And they're absorbing it, and they are reflecting it in their own feelings of the migrations that their parents have gone through, their great-grandparents have gone through, going from one place to another, all these things, and they're looking at it. And I have in the company itself, the company is a holdover from the James Baldwin suite, and in that company, I'm using Ras Moshe on tenor and flute. I'm using Eric Robinson on synthesizer and computer and images. I'm using Mara Rosenblum on piano. I'm using Gussie Celestine on dance and narration, because an important part about the migration is a narration, and a person is telling a story. It's a story, actually. And then I'm using Jeremy Grosvenor. Jeremy Grosvenor is a visual artist, and he is also another one of the narrators. I have 3 guests who are bringing a special coding to the entire thing. The first one is David Soldier, who's going to be playing violin, electric violin, and banjo. I have William Parker, who's going to be playing acoustic bass. And everybody is acquainted with Ava Mendoza, the new guitarist on the scene that is coming at it from a completely different sensibility. And myself. We have images, we have dance, we have music, and we also have, last but not least, 2 people who actually experienced the migration. Nanny Lampkin, who's 89 years old, it's going to be her birthday when this happens, and Mr. Alton Brooks, who now is 97 years old.
Wow.
And they're going to be explaining what it was like. What it was like to be in the South. What it was like to move from the South to the North. Why they actually chose to go into the industrial from the agricultural. What it was like to grow up in a totally segregated place. What it was like to be in a situation where you could make money based on the fact that America was going to war. And then when you came back, you're still in the same situation. And this is what the story is about. And again, I cannot thank enough these great musicians for going down this road with me. And I really want everybody, all kinds of people, to come to see the migration at Roulette. I believe you're going to walk out. You're going to walk out filled, totally filled. And we'll go into more about why this is important later on, after we listen to a little bit of Sonny Murray again.
Another blast of Sonny Murray, for sure.
Yes, this blast.
That blast?
It's time for this blast. The one that turned my life around. The one that turned my life around as a drummer.
We're going to leave these folks with just waiting for the resolution of Studio Rivby.
Well, you know something, people? I play drums. That's what I do. That's the reason why when we're honoring a drummer, I want to hear the drummer. Don't you, people? I know you do. Here's the very first record. First record I ever picked up, and I put it on. It was Sonny Murray, and I'm telling you, based on what Ras has told me, and Ras is a scholar of this music, this is probably one of the best recording records. Tell us about it, Ras. In your words, what this record represents.
As far as the sound,
Yes.
yeah, a lot of the musicians who knew Sonny well, I've read in their interviews when they were asked about him that one of the complaints was that he wasn't recorded the way he should have been. But this particular recording stands out on ESP. I think Richard Alderson was the one that recorded the majority of these, and he did a really great job as far as the sonic fidelity of it really comes through.
I know you're waiting for this, aren't you, audience? I can hear you.
I know. There's at least one listener because he called. I have the which is better, the CD?
Oh,
or the
okay.
CDs? Yeah, I have it ready to
All
go.
right, then.
Raphael, who you know, says he was in the studio when this recording was made, and he says it still doesn't really do justice to the sound of what came from Sonny Murray's drums, but it might well be the best document we have. And it's the one that opened your head up. So, shall we? All right,
That's what the audience has been waiting for forever.
we've been keeping them 2 hours. We've been keeping them on the hook. Man, they're just strict.
I like the audience.
This is on the ESP disc label, and great thanks to Ras Moshe for bringing it through for us. But it was recorded in January of 1966. The album's simply called Sonny Murray, and we'll hear Jacques Corseal on trumpet, alto saxophones from Jack Graham, and Bard Lancaster, who was on that session we just heard. Alan Silva is the bassist, and Sonny Murray on the drums. And this is, you said giblet or giblet? I always hear giblet. Giblet. I'm going giblet.
Well, see, I don't know because I'm not from the South. Yeah. I know giblets, but I don't know.
Speaking of migration, I believe Sonny Murray was born in the South, but he came up in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. More of that in a bit. So this is Giblet from Sonny Murray's album, Sonny Murray, WKCR.
There we go.
Music from Sonny Murray.
And the beauty of it, you see.
Please.
Now
expound.
Right. The beauty of it is that as a drummer, you're free. He freed me. He freed me. And many that heard this piece, he freed us. He freed us in the sense of they knew the tune, he knew the tune, but he didn't have to play rhythm on the tune. He's actually playing the tune itself any way that he feels like it. But the thing about it is interesting. It's interesting because he's playing the tune itself, but coming from the African way of looking at, I won't say African, like Africa, but the way of the drum can tell, the drum can carry the melody, just like the horn can carry the melody. It's not like one has to be subservient to the other in this hierarchy of instruments. It's all of us can play this melody, and we can all play it together. And I can expound on it. I can accent it. I can take it where I want to, as long as I know that these great individuals are right there with me, traveling down this road. That's the way I feel with this music. This migration, as long as I know that they're there, I can do whatever I want to do. It's such a freeing feeling.
William Hooker talking about Sonny Murray. You're listening
Thank
to
you, man.
You're listening to WKCR.
No, really, it's freeing.
It's we're not free from the FCC though, and we are required to say that it's WKCR FM New York and WKCR HD1 and WKCR.org. The show's called Deep Focus. William Hooker giving a spectacular demonstration of why it's called Deep Focus. And
Okay.
Did I say I'm Mitch Goldman? I am. Ras Moshe here in the studio as well. And we've got we are just drinking it all in, eating every bit of the giblets, jousting with the angels and devils, hilariously. Those are all titles from this album.
That's right. That's right.
And it's just such a beautiful expression. Freedom among other things.
It's masterful. And another thing that this particular record and records like it, no, I won't say records like it, because there aren't many like it. This particular record made me realize every single drum has to be amplified. Every single drum has to have a microphone. Did you hear? I mean, this dude is like playing drums. He's playing a drum set. You know, it's not like he's got like this one little, we have this mic and it picks up everything and it's just above your head and all this and this and this. No, I don't think so. I don't care how much you tell me that. I don't believe it. I never will believe it. And people like Sasha Van Artsen also didn't believe it. And you know what? I said, Sasha, just what I want to do. It wasn't so crazy. And then when you hear a record like this, that everybody would say, oh, geez, that's such a wild record. What kind of thing is that? You know something? I can hear the drum set. I can hear the guy. I can actually hear him.
Sasha Van Artsen, audio engineer.
Yeah.
We all love.
That's right. And every single time I've ever gone in there, she didn't feel intimidated about the fact that William wants people to hear his drums. I mean, people feel intimidated. I don't know why. I'm just playing the song like you. I mean, you know, I'm playing the song just like you. It might not sound like it to you, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to play it just like you. You know, and I want to feel free to do it too. So, and I'm saying that, you know, when you see a record like this and you come across a record like this and you're 16 years old and this record is played and you hear this drum set in this way, it's almost like you say to yourself, that's breathing. That drum set is breathing.
And that's another thing people don't realize, not to step on your toes. But well, just to say that what a drum set is, that it's a number of individual instruments, and each of them has its own tone, its own overtones, its resonance, and it's unusual to really get the breadth of that in a recording. Even still.
No, why? Why would you say that?
Well, it's very...
No, say that again. Maybe you didn't say the right words.
It's a very complicated set of what the drums. When you hit a drum,
yes.
When William Hooker hits a drum,
okay,
it moves the air.
Okay.
And when you hit a number of different drums, and there's this, the air is moving in the whole room wherever you are.
Okay.
In response to that,
yes,
you get overtones. You get overtones colliding with one another and enforcing it. Yeah. And it's a difficult thing to capture. It's not an easy thing for, as sophisticated as our microphones and recording equipment is, it's just difficult to reproduce that experience in the room. And some people there are all kinds of different ways to do it and approaches people take, and some work well for one situation and not for another, depending. We're not even talking about all the other instruments that are playing at the same time and whether they're amplified or not and all this that's going on. So I'm just saying, if you really have the opportunity to listen to a great drummer hit those drums, and a drummer like you really get that thing moving. You get it ringing. There's a lot of music happening in that drum. And I think what we've gotten used to listening to music that's generally reinforced.
Okay.
And you're playing with amplified instruments.
Okay.
The sound of the drum actually becomes simplified. I think it's easier if you're miking a set of drums.
That's well put.
And you're reinforcing that through a PA along with bass guitar, whatever other instruments, or if you're an engineer who's accustomed to thinking that way, you're going to want that drum, you're going to want a kick drum to make a very simple, direct thud-thud sound. You're going to want a tom-tom to make a pretty narrow pop-pop sound. And you're not really going to get this wooden instrument resonating in the room. Yeah, and the resonances that come from that. So, you're hearing a lot of that in this recording. It's a very good recording, I think, despite the fact that Raphael said that he was in the room and it didn't really represent what was happening. But also, little note, we try to get things right. Raphael called back and corrected me. I did say I thought I remembered Sonny Murray had migrated from the South. He actually was from Idabel, Oklahoma, which is not insignificant. That's where he drew from, but he did grow up in Philadelphia. In any case, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. That there's a lot there. There's a lot there in the drums, and you know it because
all I'm asking is for somebody to put a microphone in front of it to capture it. That's all I'm asking.
It's not a simple thing, man.
Why not?
Wow.
If you wanted a pen, if you wanted to write, and I had a pen, and I give you a pen, you know what the pen is for, right?
If you...
No, wait, maybe that's whack. I'm not really sure.
No, I think that...
you know what I'm saying, right?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Like, what is a microphone for?
I know exactly what you're saying. I think a lot of audio engineers, if they have a broad approach to what they're doing, they're not necessarily accustomed to thinking about the kind of music you're presenting.
And why don't they listen to it?
They should. They absolutely should. But I mean, it's a lifetime of evolution. There's a huge amount of responsibility they have. They're interpreting your music before anybody gets to hear it, and they should do that. But people are going about their lives doing their,
right?
Yes, but people are also, you're recording it or presenting a different band every night. People should do it. They often don't, as we know. They go and they do what they got to do to get through their day, and they think they've got it covered. They don't know all the things you know.
Okay. All right then. Fine.
I'm not excusing it. I'm not justifying it.
Better not be.
But I'm not at all. But I feel like I understand it.
Because I understand it too. But there's no justice in it. That's the point.
There isn't.
And here, this man talk about justice. I mean justice like that. I don't mean justice like, this other kind of thing. I mean justice like that. But anyway, what I'm saying is that this is an example for me of what turned my thinking about the drum set around. It's very important for me. Very liberating for me. And it also made me realize, separate from this rigged celebrity system we have going on, which I know it's rigged, separate from all of that, I asked myself, who are these people? Who is this guy, Jacques Courcille? I never heard of this dude. I might have heard of, like, Miles Davis, or I might have heard of, but who is this dude? Who is that? No, yeah, he was the one that took the money. Because he was working in the
right.
record store.
8th Street Records.
He was working in the record store. But the point is, I'm asking myself, these dudes can play.
Yeah.
They can really play. And you know what? I mean, who is this guy, Jack Graham? I never heard of this guy.
Nobody ever did.
So
this is the only recording I think that he ever made. I don't know if anybody.
Really?
I don't think anybody really knows what his story was. Do you know?
He was from Detroit.
Ras Moshe.
He had come to New York with Joe Henderson, but passed at an early age, like early 70s. I forgot the specifics about why, but he was from Detroit. Him and Joe Henderson were tight. So,
well, the reason why I say that, Ross, is because oftentimes you walk into a record store, you pick up a record, and you look and you say, "Oh, who's on this record?" Because he got this producer down here. He's trying to mix and match all these people, putting it together to make it like juicy. Oh, geez, that person's on it. That person's on it. That person's on it. No, this is some straight up. There's no title on the thing, Mitch. It's just a face. Right?
Yeah.
Face.
It's very powerful, and clearly it comes through that these guys. I mean, they were. They must have been playing all the time. I mean, it's always I use this phrase that they're just breathing together. They're just in it together.
And it's not mainstream.
No, they're just doing their thing.
So I think that people, separate from even like the engineers and all these things, we just have to become accustomed to listening to improvised music. We just have to get used to like opening our palettes up for other kinds of things, other kinds of experiences, newness, and then we come across these things, and I think that we accept the length and breadth of all the different kind of musicians that there are, and we understand who's really like who's making this record happen, and it's an interesting process. It's an interesting process. I think it's a good thing. It's a growing thing, and like as I said, for me, for Sonny Murray just freed me up. He just freed me up. He really did. I mean, you heard that. I know you heard it.
Oh yeah.
And separate from Deep Focus, I know that you like to get things that are really like you can't find them, and I respect you so much for that, because half these things you'd never be able to find them ever at all. But then I realized, after listening to many, many things, I realized this guy's drum set was captured. I wasn't in the room, right? But it was captured for me, and I could really hear it, and that's that made all the difference in the world.
Well, I do take a delight in finding these rarities, but the real reason that I do it, you know who this radio show's about? It's not about Sonny Murray. It's about William Hooker, and the reason that I do that is to get you excited about it, because I want listeners to feel what you feel.
Okay.
So, and if you're going to feel it from listening to Melancholy Baby, we're going to listen to Melancholy Baby.
Uh-huh.
And if you're going to hear it from Sonny Murray on ESP, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. I just thought it would be appropriate. I thought that this was going to be appropriate.
Now, as a drummer,
Yes.
I don't want to get too technical again either, but you...
I won't take it on that road.
Well, whatever road.
Good.
But you can talk about the choices that he's making as a drummer. And I said I was going to ask you about this, about his vocabulary, and if you want to talk about the instruments he's playing or about his things that he's doing behind the drums, how he's responding to, in whatever way you want to talk about that. What's different when you hear a Sonny Murray recording? What is it that pops out and you say, oh man, that's a Sonny Murray. I haven't heard the Sonny Murray recording. What is that? What is it that he does as a drummer?
He's blazing the way. He's blazing the way. He actually told us, you don't have to play drums the way that you don't have to play drums the way it's going down this road. You can take a side street and you can use what's available to you to actually play this music. And obviously he made a decision to say that this is the way I have chosen to play this music, as opposed to maybe another drummer that may have chosen a different way to play this music, like Milford Graves, for example. And they both bring to it a certain history that they've had, obviously. And you could tell just in those two. I'm making that comparison, but because these are two drummers I really, really super respect in terms of the guts that it takes to liberate the drum set in this way. It takes guts. It really takes guts. It takes guts to like get up there and start playing and people looking at you like, what is this? Like, shut up. You know, like, you'll never work. And like, you know, let me step on your face and stuff. They get harsh. They get harsh. I mean, seriously, they get harsh. They get to the point where, like, you know, we hope you go back to Oklahoma. You know, I mean, it gets like that. It doesn't get like, you know, like, oh, geez, this guy is different. Let's help him along. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. For some reason, I don't know. For some reason, that's why you have to have a certain inner strength. That with all these people telling you all these things, that half of them are whack. Because they're really based on ignorance, actually, and based on fear. Mm-hmm. Based on fear. Like, you know, if I get this guy, William Hooker, to play in my group, you know something? I'm never going to work.
People know what they know.
Because if he goes off,
people know what they know.
People stop buying drinks.
The whole world grinds to a halt.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It'll work like that. It'll work like, and I just know for a fact that these two individuals that I just mentioned, Sonny Murray and Milford Graves, they approach it two different ways, but they approach it from the standpoint of like I'm gonna blaze this trail based on where I'm coming from, and this is the way I hear the music. And then people like me come along, and I say, you know something? Certain things I'm going to fill in. I'm going to fill that up. I'm going to fill up that space. I'm going to fill up that space. I'm still going to keep that. I'm still going to keep that flow going, but I'm going to fill that space even more. And as I fill that space even more, people may think it's powerful. They may think it's anger. They may think it's loud. I don't care. All I care about is the music and the band. And if I'm pushing one of those individuals to the point of making them want to say something different and step out and really get to another level, that's why I'm there. That's why I'm there. I'm not there to, like, you know, go along with the program. You know, we are the program. And people just have to face the fact that this program is coming from drums. You know?
William Hooker, my guest in the studio, presenting his original piece, New York premiere, Migration, Thursday, April 5th at Roulette, 509 Atlantic Avenue. Very, very easy to get to, right down there by the Barclays Center.
Right.
And that's got to be one of the transportation hubs of the Northeast right there.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is.
And you can make a night of it. All kinds of great restaurants around there. Now, if you haven't been in that part of the city in a while, you will have the top of your head come clean off when you see what's going on around there.
That's right. As well as when you see what's going to be happening
when you hear
in Roulette.
What's happening in Roulette, you'll be that's really, really going to be a treat. That is really, I'm looking forward to it.
Like what happened, and I'm going to get a little somber here. I'm going to get a little somber because 6 million African Americans moved from the South within the course of, let's say, 1920 to 1965, 70. And there were 3 phases of this migration. 6 million people is a lot of people.
Yeah.
This changed the course of history. And it changed the course of history because it was the largest migration that's ever happened based on something other than starvation and fear of execution. And I had many ideas about why it has happened. Obviously, one reason why this happened was just sheer terror. People just were in terror. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not dismissing that because I speak to many people, and they speak about they wanted to better themselves. They wanted to better themselves economically, do better for their families, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, that's true. And that's kind of the way that they picture the second part of this migration, which is what I'm really talking about, 35 to 50, 1935, 1950. And even though obviously terror was still happening, many people interpreted that move through a different lens. They really were interested in economic betterment and education, and they saw things in that way, and they wanted that. They just really desired that for themselves, for their families. They desired that. But in the back of their minds, there is a picture of there's a picture of somebody getting lynched. There's a picture of somebody getting castrated. There's a picture of somebody getting raped. And quiet as it's kept, I'm not going to bring that out as like that's the reason why people migrated. But I am going to say that that's one of the elements of that happening. And it's important for me because my father and mother were an essential part of that migration. And the people that I grew up with and taught me how to be able to function in this world, they also were part of that migration. And so after I read this book by Isabel Wilkerson, you read that book?
I have not.
You read that book?
Yeah.
It's called
The Warmth of Other Suns.
The Warmth of Other Suns. The Warmth of Other Suns. And to be very succinct, you open the book up, and it's about a what? Like, what'd you say, like 800-page book?
Yeah. Bigger than her last one, I think, slightly.
Yeah, it's about an 800-page book. And they trace the lives of these people. But it's just interesting because when you open up the very first pages of it, you see why I'm doing this. Because these people, they were just interested in planting seeds in some place that they didn't know where they were going, but they just thought that the sun would enable these seeds to grow in a different way, in a different place. And that's what actually happened. And out of that, people like myself just were a part of just growing with America, quote unquote. And it's a very timely story. It's a very appropriate story. And when you think about what we're going through now in terms of the immigration and all these kinds of things in other countries, Haiti, Venezuela, this is a microcosm of the macrocosm, really. And it just so happens that with these masterful musicians, dancer, narrators, I have a way of interpreting this story. And Roulette giving me what they've given me, the opportunity to do this, is great. And I'm just an example of a person that's making a way out of no way, to be honest. Yeah.
You've got a very evocative photo in this flyer that I'm holding. Is that a personal one from the personal collection, or is that a...
That's not from a personal collection. That's, well, if you go in, no, it's not in my family. Not in my family, but there are photos that are taken of the Great Migration, and part of what Jacob Lawrence's thing, that also inspired this piece, because when Jacob Lawrence's work came to MoMA,
yeah,
I swear I think I went 3 times. I couldn't take enough. I couldn't get enough of it. I went like 3 times. I would have gone the 4th time if it had lasted. And then when I thought about it, I went up there. There weren't that many musicians that I knew that actually went up there, but there were a few. There were a few. I gotta admit, there were a few. And just this piece speaks to a portion of my life, and it's very important, because I say it changed the course of American history.
Oh yeah.
And so it's going to be about an hour and 20 minutes, and it's deep. It's deep. When you listen to some of the things that these people went through, these 2 individuals went through, it's kind of unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Like, it really is. It really is. Like being on your own at like 10 years old. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. It really, it's and so that's what the migration is about. There's the New York premiere. I'm so happy to have this group of people. And I'm so happy that it's happening at Roulette. Much respect, Roulette. And I'm just looking for a diverse audience to come and see it. And just to watch these musicians play in situations where they kind of. Would you say this, Ras? I'm throwing this at you. Many of the musicians that are playing in this piece, they're really not playing the way many people associate them to be playing.
I noticed that.
Go. Yeah, you did?
Yeah, well, they're bringing out another side of themselves, and that's good, And multimedia presentations can really do that. They can make people more inventive. Not that they're not already inventive, but it could bring out like a heightened sense of inventiveness and stuff. And what you've been playing on the drums has been sounding good as usual.
Wow.
And, I appreciate that, being a longtime fan of yours going back to 13 and hearing you here on this station.
Right.
And, I appreciate that, and Mitch as well and stuff. But it's a good and a multidisciplinary piece with a sociological focus as well. And I think,
Well, people are gonna be, they're gonna see a different side. They're gonna see a different side. And it's a side that, to me, is joyful. Well, it's a side that's strong. It's joyful. It's a side that a lot of people, they're like, whoa, really?
It's a really good piece. We've had a series of some very good rehearsals so far, and William is incorporating some of the ideas of the other musicians as well, and But it's in a tradition of, say, like a Miles Davis, where the drums are the directing focus. You know, incorporating other voices to make one voice and stuff. You know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you have seen any of Williams' pieces, like the Baldwin Suite, James Baldwin inspired piece, or any of the Oscar Michaud
True.
performances that you've done, or any of the other things you've done there, but especially these programmatic ideas that you really get your arms around and present a big programmatic idea. It's a lot to take in. It's very, very powerful music and performance and presentation.
I just want to tell people this.
Yeah,
come.
It was interesting to hear because some of the audio portions that William picked actually touch on his own background with his family. I think one of the narrators, Mr. Lampkin, talked about arriving here with your father or something?
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, that's how he arrived
To New
there.
Britain, Connecticut. So you're getting some of the William Hooker story in a multidisciplinary project.
Thursday, April 5th, 8 p.m. at Roulette. It's 509 Atlantic Avenue. You might associate Roulette's been around for a long, long time, but took over a fantastic space in Brooklyn a few years ago.
Yeah.
Really great room to present this music. A big stage, and all the seats are very close to the stage.
You're right.
It's good room for it.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So, and plus they have tickets there. They have Eventbrite tickets as well. But I just want people to come and just revel in some joy with us.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not going to go out like Roots. It ain't gonna go out like that.
Well,
it ain't going out.
Is the migration? I think
it ain't going out like that.
At core, it's very.
What am I talking about?
It's a very optimistic story, right? I mean, it's people going for a new start.
Optimistic story.
And you didn't mention the economic component of it, and opportunity, and there was I think there was a push from the South, but also a pull from the North. I don't know. You're neck deep in the story. I'm not, but
I
I'm
have
very
been.
interested.
I really have been. And I'm just saying that it's an excellent vehicle. It's an excellent vehicle for this work, and I'm thankful for the people.
The program's called Deep Focus.
Yes, we are focusing.
WKCR. I'm Mitch Goldman, William Hooker here in the studio. We have been exploring the work of Sonny Murray. We have this great set. We have the balance of, if we want to play, from Studio Rivby. We have this fantastic album, his eponymous ESP disc release. Where to?
You want to do the first track on the ESP?
That's what I'm talking. See? Okay. See? You're a mind reader.
Deep Focus.
Deep Focus, man.
He's a mind reader.
I'm saying. All right. So, yes, this is Sonny Murray from the album Sonny Murray. Jacques Corseal on trumpet, alto saxophones from Jack Graham. Thank you, Ras Moshe, for filling in that long blank spot about who Jack Graham was. Bayard Lancaster, much more familiar, also
Thank
playing
you for
alto
holding
saxophone.
it down, Mitch, as long as you've been doing it, man.
Now, this is done 1966, you got to remember.
Yes.
And the Ribby piece was done 1975.
Yes.
So.
There it is. There it is. Alan Silva on the bass, Sonny Murray on the drums on WKCR.
Yes.
that is part 2. March 19th, 2018, a Monday evening, 6 to 9 p.m. here in New York City. Part 3 is in abeyance with your name on it. And while you're at it, you probably want to subscribe to the Deep Focus podcast. Are you going to be asked for money? You are not. Are you going to be subjected to advertising of any kind? You are not. Are you going to be asked for your email or any personal information? You are not. Are you going to be notified when a new episode becomes available? You will. And on whatever terms you like. This is for you. This is for you. Someone's doing something for you. And am I asking anything in return? Not really. It would be super nice if you let some folks know. Tell some people you know that like this kind of music. Or, just as good, give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever you got. And that's going to make Deep Focus float up in the algorithm that some listener who loves this music and doesn't know about Deep Focus, you're going to wrap it up in a bow and hand it to them. You'll never know. They will. They're going to love you for it. So that's a cool thing you could do for us, for you. Okay. See you over at part 3. It's Deep Focus.